Hey, so today we are looking at sound designing a video that is quite boring and making it really interesting with a sound design that is very simple but yet effective. We're not looking at making it very complicated and using thousands of layers. Just a few layers make all the difference. So let's listen and watch what we're doing today. Let's do this. So far I've added some video transitions like this, and I also added whoosh sound effects coming from our latest whooshes pack, cinematic whooshes. It's important to add a right kind of whooshes, not just any whoosh, but for this I've picked a soft and long whooshes with reverb added already in them inside, which gives this space fill. This is a long soft whoosh, space and bright. They're easily findable in our new app. You can search by using filters and tags, so you know which whoosh is bright. Now let's add some tonal ambience to the background of our nature and time-lapse video clips. So for that, let's head on to low tones and let's search for a mood that is calm. Perfect. This tonal ambient sound will last throughout our video session. Let's bring the volume down just a bit. Whenever we see clouds and a landscape view that's from a far distance, it's always nice to add a wind sound, which brings that feeling of space and nature. So I'm just going to type in wind into our app and go to sound effects. That is nice. With the wind noise, I'm also going to fade it in slowly by keyframing the level of the sound effect. The wind sound effect fades out naturally and ends naturally as the whoosh sound fades in. This enables a natural fade out and natural transition from one scene where we want to highlight the space and the feeling of landscape onto another scene where we've got a close look to this wheat grass and a sunset. We still probably want to have a little bit of wind going, but it has to be different wind because it's a different scene. So I'm going to pick another wind sound effect and I'm going to have it trimmed and just keep a bit of the middle section from it and also keep it at different level. So it has to be a bit louder or a bit quieter, so it's distinguishable from the wind that we just heard in the previous scene. So it's definitely a different kind of wind. And we also wanted to fade in the new wind as the new scene comes in. So keyframe and another keyframe. For that scene, let's also bring a third kind of wind, a version 3 from our Do Sounds app. As well, let's align the third kind of wind with a beginning of the new scene and keyframe the loudness of that wind. For the next scene, I'm going to just drop the volume down of the wind. So it will give a sense of different atmosphere, but it will be still the same sound effect. And for this scene, I'm going to use the first wind back again, because by this time our viewer will still spot the difference and won't instantly associate this sound effect with the first scene, because they'll be just busy looking at what's going on, and the sounds that we're going still to add in and layer will cover up the fact that we're using the same wind back again. So it will make sense in a minute. Let's fade out the wind from the previous scene as the whoosh sound effect fades in. For the night time-lapse scene, we can just keep the wind off this time. And because there is no transition between those two scenes, I didn't add any of the whoosh sounds. Now let's layer our tonal ambience with some musical motifs and with more tonal ambience. So this file, the C bridge, comes from our low tones. So okay, this time let's look for something perhaps inspiring. That's a nice tag. I really like this layer coming from the enlightenment track from the emotional ambiences, so I'm going to hit download. If you have synced all your files from the settings, once you have synced your files and they're all downloaded on your hard disk drive, you can work offline and you don't need to be downloading like I am right now every time you want to use the sound. Let's use this layer. I really like it, but perhaps it's a little bit too loud. So let's bring it down to -5 dB, and also let's fade it in slowly. So I'm keyframing the volume and it will start from -infinity to 5 dB. And that's really nice, but I'm going to move the keyframe of -5 dB to the moment of where the new scene starts. So there is new music basically with a new scene. And this is how you keep your audience engaged and interested in fairly, let's say, not dynamic, fairly steady and slow going video. So when your visuals are not super dynamic and not super interesting, but are still just a nice visuals, you probably want to keep your audience interested by utilizing the sound design. And I know for the fact that when our visuals ends, we want the music to be fading out. So I'm going to cut it at the end. So I'm just going to press C on my keyboard, delete that. And I'm going to fade out by, again, keyframing the volume. So keyframe here and keyframe here. Same with the other okay, let's now go and search for some tonal sounds that could be placed at the beginning of a new scenes. We call them sound signatures or signature sounds. So when we go to signature sounds, we want to look at the file name, and for the file names we are using, we got C in the file name for the low tone, and we also have a C major. So the files you want to look for in the signature sounds, you want to go to the filters window and select works on C major and hit OK. That will ensure that the files we're browsing are, in fact, will work musically with what you have going in your timeline already. So let's try the moment 2 from the memories track. Probably because we've got a effect going and the scene is actually being faded in. We probably don't want a sound signature that stops really sharply with a hit. We probably want a kind of signature sound that is also fading in as the scene it fades in as well at the same time. However, this sound would be probably really good right at the end where we've got no transitions. So like this, I think that really works. So let's look for something else for I like that blooming moments, so let's use that because it has that kind of fading in and then it's got a hit that will work really nice for the transitions, for the transition that we have going on here. So like that. And then another opening for here. So let's look for another opening sound and perhaps use something from the same track so it matches stylistically. So we've got blooming moment 1A. Let's go for a blooming moment 1D. That's really nice. Probably have a blooming So this works, however, you can hear that the timeline is a little bit too busy in terms of those high frequencies, and there's probably too much of the orchestral layers going on at the same time. So I'm actually going to delete this moment 1B and use something that is more distinguishable. So I've heard some of those like a vocal signature sounds, but I can't remember which were they. So I'm just going to go to the top, and in my instruments I'm going to choose vocal, and it's really nice. Make sure the C major is selected. Yeah, so I'll use some of those vocals coming from the Enlightenment track, but I'm also going to fade, trim from the beginning of that file, and I'm also going to fade in right to where the actual vocal starts. So because what's going on before, it's like a instrumental fade in. If we just solo this track and listen, the actual vocal that I'm interested in doesn't happen until this point. So I'm going to keyframe the level again. So keyframe here, and then again minus infinity for the fade in. Let's listen to it all together. Yeah, so that works really nice. So adjusting the volume in Adobe Premiere in the audio clip mixer has resulted in lowering those two keyframes from -5 to -2.6, which is just right. So just so you know. Okay, so probably the visuals aren't too spectacular. I'm sure you guys doing something more breathtaking than my stock footage. I've got it from internet for our little tutorial here, but I hope you get the idea of how to make video that doesn't seem to be too interesting, that perhaps could be, you know, even a little bit boring, and making it interesting with some simple sound design principles. To summarize, what I did was I've introduced whooshes for the blurred transitions. I've used wind effects different for different scenes and slowly faded in and faded out those wind effects. And also then used a tonal sound ambiences, layered them together, and then had signature sounds starting right at the start of different scenes. And that was done really easily with our new app by utilizing the search with filters and with the tags. So I hope this makes sense. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks.